clarification for the minutes, so
Yeah.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Well, I just wanted to, everyone was here last meeting except Commissioner Schaefer, and I just wanted to let people know now that I am back, that I was in Arlington for the burial of my mother-in-law, so.
We're
Well,
sorry
she-
for your loss and appreciate the clarification. And with that, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as sent. Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Investment report. Mr. Beatty, welcome.
Thank you. I know you've all been just waiting for me to give my report tonight.
All month, all year.
Didn't have any bids, but LGBIP has jumped up to 23 basis points, which, doesn't sound like a lot, but where we stayed at 7 to 9 for years, that's a huge increase. What that has done, y'all, we have moved some more money there that was on really short term because our banking agreement for months and months and months and months was better. But actually the 23 nets out better on some. So while we didn't have, we'd not moved any there, that's a significant difference. So, but still, we're better off in the CDs when we have those opportunities.
Any questions of Mr. Beatty?
Motion to approve the report.
Thank you, Commissioner Bean.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Allen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Beatty.
Thank you.
Fund condition report, Ms. Nolan.
I'll start with development tax. We received $269,250. That brings our year-to-date total to $3,084,000. Our cash balances at the end of December total $229,620,000, with $199,585,000 being operating funds, $30,035,000 being borrowed funds. On our review of revenue, if you're ready for that. Had any questions on the cash balances? But at the end of December, I've added to this first page, let me make sure I've got it. On this revenue review, on this first page, down in the bottom, I've shown on the current tax roll, the percent collected. In December of 2014, the trustee's office collected 47.86% of the roll. At the end of this December, they collected 51.53% of the roll. So when you do the comparisons, for this December for local taxes, that's some of this increase that you're seeing compared to the prior 5 years. Development tax is 68.7% of last year. Hotel motel tax is up. That's the most significant. Sales tax, which affects 4 funds, with 5 months reporting in the rural areas 40% higher than the prior year, and overall countywide, which affects the school board, is 8.62% higher than the same 5 months of the prior year. So all in all, the revenue looks good.
Any questions of Ms. Nolan?
Yep, just a quickie. When we come in that much higher in sales tax over the year, do we have to, it's not until the end of the year that we have to share it with the city?
No, we share all along the way.
All along the way? Does, like, our Board of Education normally, since it comes in higher, do they hold on to it? Or do they spend it, or do
No, I mean, it's, the whole process,
Yeah.
They don't spend unless you approve the appropriation. And so that increase in revenue, we don't do that until June, unless there's something that may really come up and they have a need. They might go ahead and say, can we recognize the revenue that we've got above what we initially budgeted to go spend for this purpose? It always comes back to you.
Something like a chiller going out or something, big ticket item, we didn't budget
but typically we wait till the end of June on those.
Motion to approve is presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Risk management report, I believe you're doing that tonight, Ms. Nolan.
Yes, sir. Okay, starting with the insurance fund. You can see how we are doing compared to last year. For the month of December compared to the month of December last year, we're at $943 PEPM. And compared to last year, it is $1,031. This is just the medical part. When you average the 6 months, we're at $968 compared to last year at $904. It's a 7% increase when you roll the second blocks. When you roll our on-site medical, we are at $983 compared to $1,060. With the average cost for the 6 months to be $1,009 compared to $935 last year, and we're showing an 8% increase per employee per month. On the OJI, we are at $301,693 for self-insured claims for the first 6 months compared to $333,836 first 6 months. So we're pretty close to where we were last year this time.
Any further questions or clarification needed?
Motion to approve is
Thank
presented.
you, Commissioner Allen.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. General fund budget transfer for juvenile detention. Ms. Duke, welcome.
Thank you. Okay, well, do you do it or you want me to do it? It's been a while since I've been up here for finance. This is $4,000 within our current budget, moving from our attendance line item to overtime. And that line item is currently overdrawn due to having employees that have left employment and we had to pay out their compensation time.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Jernigan? Any discussion? Not, call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Grant fund budget transfer for archives.
I'll take care of it, yes, sir. He's requesting, to hire a temporary employee to work on some microfilming, and he's asking us to move $1,945 out of his other supplies and materials into part-time and then the related benefits.
All from within their own budget.
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner P.
Second.
Mr. Jernigan? Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Grant with Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services for the drug court. Mr. King,
Sir, thank you.
welcome.
This is just our typical grant that we receive every year from the state. It's for $107,500. This will apply from July 1st of 2016 to June 30th of 2017 with no contributions, no matching. This is, if we don't use it,
No surprises.
No surprises.
Exactly what was budgeted and expected.
yes, sir.
And I
Any
think-
questions?
And we've got in here that, once it comes through, that mayor is authorized to accept the grant. And we will know, and we'll already roll it into next year's budget.
Motion to approve. Also, people that are required to sign, they have the authority to do so.
Second.
Mr. Schaefer, Mr. P. Any discussion? Mr. Baum looks like he wanted to say something. Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Yes. Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes.
Commissioner Fee?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Authorization to apply for assistance to firefighters grant for ambulance service. Mr. Nunley, or you taking that one?
I could take that. This is a request, that they would like to, apply for $125,000 worth of grant awards, and they would like to, with that money, purchase power stretchers. There is a 10% required match if they get it. If they get it, well, of course, we'll have to come back to you for approval and to budget the 10% match.
We're trying to go with power stretchers anyway, aren't we not? So is this something we'd end up having to do?
Yeah,
ourselves
ultimately, we'd like to buy
regardless?
several of those.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Second.
Commissioner Kaplan,
I believe that the ones that they've had, they've cut down some on their back issues and things like that since they've had some. It just seems a heck of a lot of lifting.
I would be interested in what kind of timeline we've got. We hope that we could have all the ambulances outfitted with them. That may be a long time down the road, but it's,
I think they said at public safety, was it 6 that they have right now?
I don't remember.
I think that's what it was.
call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Yes. Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes.
Commissioner Fee?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Authorization to apply for assistance to firefighters grant for fire and rescue. Chief Farley, welcome.
I want to request permission to write a grant for 21 CBAs, which is our air packs that protects our respiratory systems when we're doing structural firefighting. The cost would be $136,500, and the county match would be $13,650.
Very similar to the last grant. No more items that we need.
Well, we
Might as well get somebody to pay for 90% of them instead of us paying for 100%.
wrote 2 last year, but we weren't successful.
Who would these go to, Larry?
We go to Station 5. That will bring a lot of them are out of date. They have bottles, and when the
Every 10 years they have to
15.
be replaced. Is it 15 now?
15 still bottles, you get as long as they test out, they're okay. But the composite bottles, 15, that's in or out.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Payne.
Second.
Commissioner Jernigan. Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes.
Commissioner Fee?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Just a quick update, we didn't get the staffing grant from last year, but we did have 4 in the budget for Walter Hill, and they are on staff from 7 in the morning to 5:30 in the evening. So already making a huge impact out that way.
That's good news. Bad news and good news, I guess. General fund budget amendment for the sheriff's office. Mr. Russell, welcome.
Guys are cranking them in and out tonight.
We're about done. I think 10 minutes is all we've got.
Sorry. I know he's watching.
It's trying to get through the crowd.
Yeah, they're crowded out there. Okay, so for tonight, we got a grant that came in, the SCAP grant, and so that was for $3,447. We're gonna put that into our printing line item to print inmate handbooks, translate those into Spanish. Next item up was the sale of equipment where we sold rifles and other equipment, and we're going to request to put that into our law enforcement equipment line item from that revenue. We've had 2 insurance checks come in, so we came in an insurance recovery revenue item. We like to put $7,325 back into our new vehicles line item, and the $1,500 in repair and maintenance of the building to pay for the fence. And that's our request for tonight.
Other wishes of the committee?
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. Schaefer, Commissioner Jernigan. Any discussion?
Those manuals, they gotta be printed versus electronically delivered.
Do you give one to each inmate as they come in?
That's
That's
sign it.
TCI standard.
Yeah.
So wait till you get home and get your email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes.
Commissioner Fee?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
gentlemen. General fund budget transfer for circuit court clerk. Taking that, Ms. Nolan? See our representative?
Oh, okay.
She was
She was here earlier.
Who are you looking for?
Melissa, she's
Harold?
out there.
Or, no. Melissa?
Harold.
Melissa, well, she was here a few minutes ago. Welcome, Ms. Harold.
Thank you.
That's what you're asking for right there, that budget. Okay. You wanna tell them?
This is for processing equipment.
Maintenance agreement for your jury.
Yes, our jury costs, we've had, extra, or not extra, we've had more, trials going on this year than we had anticipated, in which we talked about that. I think at the beginning of the budget, I had said that I thought we were gonna have a lot more big trials than before, and we do. And we were needing that.
6,957 with the taking it out of data processing equipment to maintenance agreements.
What it says here? Funding for maintenance on the jury system and juror data upload. I do that all the time. What are the wishes of the committee?
Motion approved.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan.
Second.
Commissioner Baum. It is all from within circuit court's budget, of course, so. Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Harrell.
Thank you.
Is that all we got tonight? Well, this one may not go quite as quickly. Recommendation from steering committee to change the retirement plan for new hires. What's going around with this one?
I'm good. I'm too. Okay. You want to, we've got representatives from TCRS here. Would you like me to come up and put that around?
If there's any
These are just
objection,
easier
I think
to-
the more
Easier to read.
These go around all these people over there.
It's coming, but he's got it.
Okay.
single sheet.
I just thought, I can't, my eyes have gotten bad, and I can't read all that print.
Well, you're younger than some of us, so I'm glad you finally realized it.
It's 2 pages each. One is.
Oh, you made that really big.
Yeah, I
She was gonna make it
did.
big.
They can see from behind. One is, the one for the state. It should be 2. One, that- oh, I got dual change.
2012
Yeah.
to 2013.
Yeah. One is, got a date 9/6/2013 and 6/2012. One is the option for local government. The other one is a state hybrid that's also available for local government. That's for your reading pleasure. Because I can't read.
Start.
Where do you want to start?
I guess start with the recommendation that came from steering. At least put it on the table. That's just help, just say what it is.
I don't think we're ready to vote on anything,
No.
but yeah, just for clarification, what has come out of steering, you know, if my information is correct, there were 3 different ideas discussed, maybe not all voted on in steering. One was, maybe 4, but we could always do status quo. 2.5% increase was the first recommendation from the mayor. Was there a change in the vesting?
It was yeah, a 10-year vesting.
With the 10-year vesting
The 10-year vesting.
on the current legacy plan.
And then there was talk of a 5% increase with a 10-year vesting I believe, and then there was change to the state plan. Of course, this is all on new hires from whatever dates, not necessarily affect any current employees directly.
Correct. And even if somebody has worked for the county before and been on our current legacy plan, if they return, they will be on the legacy plan, correct? Or am I misreading that?
There's a couple of stipulations, they have to be vested, and then they can come back with no issue at any time. If they're not vested, then they have to come back within 7 years.
So, on this packet, I wanted to ask this question, because this was one that was brought up. In the packet where it's talking about the hybrid pension plan with cost controls, employees, one of the things it says here, it says, local government employee changes employment to a different local government. The two local government employees have different plans, one's legacy and one's hybrid. And it says, the new employee is the employee covered in the plan in effect with the local government employee. So they're covered in that entity's plan, even if they were vested at a prior employer. But if they come back to the same, so if somebody left Rutherford County and came back to Rutherford County, they would be under the legacy.
They can be under
Okay,
the
I wanted to
legacy
clarify
plan.
that.
And what was that you said about 7 years though?
If they're out completely and not in TCRA, if they're completely out and go to like another state, for example, and they come back, if it's been over 7 years and they don't have that 5-year vesting, then they would not be eligible to come into the prior plan that the city held, the legacy plan. They would have to go into the hybrid plan because it's the new plan that the city has adopted.
If they were unvested.
Correct.
Okay. But
If they're
were-
vested,
If they were vested,
they can come back at
at
any time.
And I didn't introduce, I'm so rude, I'm sorry. This is Karen Curtis and this is Melissa Davis, just so that you guys know who's here. They've come with me a couple of times, but I shouldn't make the assumption everybody remembered who they were, so I apologize.
I remember, but thank y'all for
Makes my
coming.
job
Sorry, you figured it out, Mark. You're good.
Well, welcome, we appreciate you making if you're not from Murfreesboro, making the trip and being here with us.
I promised them toots afterwards.
We're looking forward
Good.
to it.
I said I'll buy you dinner.
Well,
So where do you start? Where do you start? I mean, there's,
I'll tell you where I'd like to start. I'd like to know the bottom line cost difference between what was voted on from steering versus what the mayor and Sonia have recommended, which is 10-year vesting, 2.5% legacy, a 2.5% employee add-on, I guess, versus the state plan. Is there any way we can dig that out
Well-
and look at hard numbers on any of that?
As I mentioned, they're unable to calculate it like in the pension part, but Lisa put some numbers together because numbers are her thing and kind of came up with something that would give you, I mean, this isn't exact science.
it's on page 8 of 8.
Age of 8 of 8.
8 of 8. And
She
this is
figured out a calculation,
This is
you know, to
pretty
give
simple,
an
and it's
idea
really-
ballpark.
Give credit to Mr. Beatty asking questions, and I thought his approach was a pretty easy way to just kind of, his question was, what if we had done this 30-some years ago? We already know what our cost is today under what we're doing today. Had we rolled back, what would have been the impact? So y'all all on this page right here? Okay. So all I did was take what we paid out in pension expense for general fund, solid waste, and ambulance. Very difficult to do this with schools, primarily because the teachers are already paying 5% of their requirement. So our current rate is 11.97%, so I just divide that number, and then that becomes what the covered payroll is. Just to say, okay, here's the payroll. So with the hybrid, and saying, okay, so the county contribution would be 5% for the DC plan and 4% for the DB plan, that's a total of 9. With that covered payroll, what would be the county's expense? It would be 3.8 million. It would generate almost 1.3 million of savings, equivalent of about using our budgeted penny. That's about 2 cents on the tax rate. That's a hybrid. Then just walking on down on legacy, that's not a hybrid. Just saying, well, what if we ask our have our employees pay 2.5%. So just 11.97 less 2.5, just 9.47% of the payroll that we would pay, you know, assuming. So there you would see that the 9.47% times the covered payroll gives you 4 million. That would be a savings of $1 million. And so about 1.7 savings on the tax rate. Dropping down for the employee contribution being 5%, you know, it would be it'd create a savings of 3.4 pennies. So.
And that's staying with the legacy, but just doing the employee contribution rate at the 5-year vesting, correct?
That's not changing any, I mean, that's just pretty simple of when the rates changes. Now, they may, I know that there might be some other factors that kind of go in it, but that was just you know, where we are now and what would the same covered payroll if we contributed less.
If our employee population was on it today.
Yeah.
Right, because what happens is when whatever change that you decide to make, it goes, we have one plan for our existing population, and then it creates a new plan, and each plan has its own, funding ratio, contribution rate. So, you know, this is just trying to analyze it in a way that said, if we were doing it today, what would this look like?
Now, but that's not what's gonna happen overall, because as you said, next year, if you picked any of these plans, it's not gonna be this huge change in 1 year.
It'd take 30 years to get here,
30,
but
40 years.
ultimately, these could be the savings.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is they do, in the past, I mentioned, well, I keep forgetting y'all weren't in the steering committee. As I mentioned before, in the past, the contribution rate had been calculated every other year, and we'd been given a new rate every other year if it needed adjustments. And recently they changed that, so from this point forward, we will get a new evaluation every year, and so our contribution rate could change annually, whereas
And
before.
probably will change annually.
Right.
Put it down.
And so the contribution rate is based on several factors, just to give you an idea of how they come up with that. One, it's based on your existing retirees who we're already paying for. It's based on what our contributions are that are in the plan already, who they're anticipating, who may retire in the near future. They look at the funds that were in there, what their rate of investment return, and I mean, there's several other factors that they use to analyze, and that's how they come up with the rate. It's based on our employee population only, the salaries, that goes into consideration, what the rate
My
would be.
understanding is that we are required as a county to provide 100% of the ARC, the annual required contribution. And I assume we are indeed doing that.
Yes, sir.
Which is, they give us the rate of what it costs to do that, and we apply it to our payroll, and we pay it every year.
Well, we pay it every month.
Pay it every payroll.
Yeah.
So we pay what we're required.
Already.
To what extent are we confident that the state tells us the proper contribution to make so that the plan is financially solvent into the future?
They have that's what this actuarial study is
does.
done, and it's a third party that
Right.
prepares it.
You hear something about asset to liability ratios, and there are lots of defined benefit plans that have unattractive ratios, but my understanding is that the TCRS ratio is one of the best ones.
Well, Rutherford.
But even if you pay 100% of the ARC requirement, it doesn't mean that your assets are equal to your liabilities. It's still a ratio that's a fraction. Do you know what the TCRS is?
Over 90%, it's about 93%.
That's,
And the county is 102.
and we're at 102.
Yeah, political subdivisions, that, when I say 93%, that's including teachers, state employees, and all political subdivisions. Political subdivisions that are then looked at independently, so.
And ours is
yes.
102, right now, 102% funded.
Funded. That's as of
So we got
March.
a little wiggle
I mean,
room.
June 30th.
Yeah, June 30th.
2015.
Look, let me back up for just a second, Lisa. Something you were explaining earlier on the legacy changes. I understood the employee contribution 2.5 and that being 1.7 pennies. Okay?
Yeah.
And then below that you had an employee contribution of 5% and making that 3.4 pennies.
Well, what
Now, the difference being there, are you saying that the employees would have the option to put in 5%?
No,
Or that's
no,
just a separate
the
option that
government,
we could look
the
at?
government has to,
You have to make a choice, the county does.
Okay, so that's another option.
it
that
does,
we could
that's
look
are
at.
the choices, 0, 2.5, or 5, that's really your only options.
On the legacy plan.
And I mean, when I say there's a plethora of options that we have available to us, I mean, within the legacy plan, there is a local government hybrid plan, there's a state hybrid plan, there is a straight DC plan, I mean, there's option, and then in every plan are additional options, like the legacy that we have now, we have the option of 0, 2.5, or 5% for the employees to contribute. And we have the option of 5 or 10-year vesting. We have an option of benefit improvement. We have an option for cost of living increases. So within every plan are multiple options that we have to choose from too, which is when I went through and analyzed every one of them, every possible scenario, and with their assistance, they gave me some numbers on factors that it would be, and that was what, when we used that in our analysis to bring forward the recommendation before, that was what we used.
Can I speak? I'm sorry, I hate to do this, but just in looking at this, what y'all prepared, I'm a little hesitant about the thing you just brought up about the employees paying 5%, the employee contribution being 5% and the county's going down to 6.97.
No, all I was just doing is saying, oh, what if?
Okay, because if y'all did discontinue the non-contributory provision, I just wanna make sure it's clear, it would not decrease 5%.
No, we know that.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying, if this had happened
Okay.
30 or
This
40
has happened 30 years
ago,
ago, and this is where,
and
yeah.
Perfect,
now,
okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure,
Yeah,
couldn't
'cause
leave
no,
here
no,
without
absolutely
being concerned,
not.
I at least made that statement.
Yeah, this is just, with that in mind, just to say,
Okay.
what would have happened
Perfect,
if they
gotcha.
made the decision 30 or
Gotcha.
40 years ago.
Okay.
Now, another question, of course, I've had the benefit of seeing this a few times, and it's really, to me, it's difficult because just like Sonia said, there are so many options out there. But one thing that I got confused on the other night was the plan that was forwarded to us versus the legacy plan. When a person is vested, what monies, when they're vested, and then two, what monies they're able to leave with after they're vested or before they're vested. How does that affect our bottom line as far as money in the county coffers? Because I know I can see with a 10-year investment, if somebody stays 7 years or 6 years and they leave, then under the legacy plan, straighten me out if I'm wrong, that money that the county's contributed will stay with the county.
Correct.
They do not get to take that. And I wanna know the difference between that and, this other option that we've got, that we're looking at that came out of steering.
So a couple of, and correct me if I'm wrong, a couple of scenarios. So like with the legacy plan right now, non-contributory. If somebody, and I hate to confuse
You're
this.
talking about just like it is now.
Just like it is now, but
not with the-
I wanna clarify one part, because that way if somebody's listening says, oh, that's not true.
But once you do that, I wanna go to the other option that we were looking at.
Right. So under the legacy plan, as it is today, the employees are non-contributory. So if somebody leaves, that stays until they retire. When they retire, they can either draw the pension from us or they can roll it over into another retirement plan. Am I correct?
If they're non-contributory,
If they're non-contributory.
there's nothing for them to
Roll over, because it's a
They
zero.
can only
Okay.
take the monthly benefit.
So they can only lump sum, that was what it was, okay. So they could take a lump sum to reinvest so that they wouldn't have to pay the penalties, no?
No. If you're a non-contributory employer, the only option that your employees are gonna have is to get the monthly benefit. So if they're not vested and they don't become vested elsewhere.
No, I mean if they were vested. If they were vested.
Even if they're vested.
Even if they're vested.
Even if they're
Okay.
vested, a lump sum isn't an option.
Okay.
If you're non-contributory, the only option is the monthly
Pay
benefit.
benefit.
Mhm.
So that's where we're getting with the contributory, that we have some of our employees that at some point in time were contributory, that they have a fund. And
And
you
teachers.
explain it so I don't say it wrong, go ahead and explain it.
If you're contributory, then you've got a few more options that you can do with your account balance. Your contributory, the employee themselves are paying funds in. So that money, those monies can be moved. Now, whatever the employer paid in addition cannot be touched. That stays with the employer. But if an employee decides
On
whether
any-
they're vested or not.
Any plan that, where the employee is contributing money.
Yes, Any
Theirs.
plan, any TCRS offered plan that where they themselves are paying
Which
5%.
would be any of the options we're looking at other than the legacy.
Exactly.
Do you mean just the defined contribution plans or the defined benefit
We're talking
plans too?
I'm strictly talking about the defined benefit portion of it.
Right now, because see, on the defined benefit under the hybrid plan, the county, the employee will put in 5% on the hybrid, and the county will put in 4% on the hybrid. So the 4% with the county would stay.
Would stay.
But the 5% of the defined benefit that the employee is theirs, cause it's their money that they contributed.
How soon?
It's
Anytime.
immediate vesting. Immediate vesting means immediately.
They could, if an employee only stays for 2 years and you contribute, and they leave a month later, what they paid in can be theirs. They can either get it in the form of a personal check, less taxes and penalties, or they can roll it over into a qualified plan with no taxes, no penalties, or they can keep it in there. It'll gain interest for about 7 years, 5% interest, and if they in the event they may come back to a TCRS covered employer, or they may come back to Rutherford County themselves, that money could still potentially be there and add to future retirement benefits from us.
But you're only
So they've
talking
got a
about
few
what
more
they
options.
contributed
This
themselves.
is this is strictly if they are contributory.
Just the part they contribute, not the part the
Yes,
county contributes.
that's correct. The money that the employer pays in is strictly to fund a monthly benefit. That's all it is.
On
So
the
if they are
defined
taking a
benefit.
refund, on the defined benefit portion, if they are taking a refund, they are saying we do not want the monthly benefit. So that employer is no longer responsible for funding it. So the money would stay there.
But all of the defined contribution portion would go to the employee. There's
Even what the
Yes.
county
even the
contributed.
Correct,
county's-
yes, correct.
But they're vested immediately, so if they leave, they can take it then.
Take it then.
Let's talk about what was forwarded from steering on that.
Right,
moving
that's
to
what
the state plan.
That's what I'm trying to get at, is
Yeah.
the difference
Yeah.
between these two
Yeah.
plans.
So
Now,
like,
the money that you're showing here, these pennies that we're saving, is that taken into account?
Their part, no, this is just
Now, what I'm saying is, like you've given us 2.02 pennies for the hybrid plan. Okay, and then you've given us 1.7 pennies for the legacy plus 2%, 2.5%. Did you take into account people that were vested, that were leaving?
that's
No.
just saying that's what the
I'm just-
contribution.
I'm just
you
saying,
just went total.
here's an effect of the rate we have, and then really kind of showing you what is the effect with the employee sharing the burden.
And,
Yeah.
and I got that, I just wondered how deep you went on that.
That's real.
But if I'm understanding this correctly, and y'all may already have this, but with the hybrid, they can pull out not only their contribution, but also the county's contribution.
On the DC
On
part.
the DC
Oh.
portion, they can
On
pull
DC
out
part.
all.
And that's immediately, or is that after
Immediately.
five? That's immediately.
Immediately.
So that's money coming out of that fund,
It's gone.
which otherwise, if we stayed with the legacy plan, would be staying in that fund.
Correct.
So we've got to, back to what Commissioner P was saying.
That's what I
We've
was
got to
trying to do,
offset
right.
that with these tax savings, the pennies, and we've got to come up with some sort of rationale of how many people would leave and suck that money straight out of the fund.
Well,
Which would
and
not be
that's-
there for investment.
Yeah, would
Right.
not be there
For
to
investment.
pay everybody else's benefits. Be
Which
that
is-
much just straight off the top.
The, somebody asked this question, and maybe you can answer this better, it was posed to me that, you know, and I think I've been pretty clear all along, I felt like the legacy, I would rather us do something within the legacy plan, cause I think for what the commission is wanting to do as far as saving money long-term, I think there's some options that we have available to us that stays within that, because to think that somebody would take it and leave, that leaves us our investing abilities to accrue. But the question was asked, if that holds true, why would the state then have not stayed with that option and made some changes within theirs instead of going to the hybrid? Of course, I couldn't answer that question. And my thought was, is because your population is so much bigger. I said, you know, they have thousands of people, we have 8,000.
Right.
And based on the turnover rates and things that they have, it might have been more viable for them to do, but it may not be the best choice for us, just because the state did that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best choice for our employee population size. That was the only analogy I could come up with, so.
Right, and I know there's press here, I cannot speak on behalf of the treasurer. But a lot of it too was that there was research done in comparing, you know, not just taking a look at our plan, but we did research the plans of other states within the nation, and the hybrid model does appear to be a model that a lot of other other states too are leaning to. They might not be just as necessarily as well funded. They could be better funded than we are. But it does appear that seems to be a trend that a lot of state pension plans are leaning towards too for their state employees and potentially their teachers if they cover them as well. So that was something that was also researched when we did move to the state and teacher hybrid plan back in 2014.
So was it done because it was gonna be a cost savings for the state, or was it done because it was just a trend and felt like it was a better move for the
I
employee?
think, in my personal opinion, it was probably both. I think that, you know, in order to keep, you know, we want to keep that 93% funded, or if not better, we want to keep that. And so part of it, I'm sure, was an effort for us to make certain that in the event, you know, another 2008 should happen again and it be worse than it was before, that we still can keep our good rating, our good name, and still be one of the top funded plans in the country and in the world. So.
Well, you mentioned that the state might have wanted to make the transition to a hybrid plan to save cost and because it's trendy. But couldn't it also be just due to risk and uncertainty? Because when you've got one of these legacy plans, if the stock market does go down like it did in 2008, or if it happens again in the future, then that means your assets have lost value, and so the contributions have to go up. And so with a legacy plan, there's a whole element of risk and uncertainty that's not as prevalent with the hybrid plan and wouldn't be present at all with a pure defined contribution
I would say
plan.
that too is definitely something that was also a factor. At least something that they had to consider when they were making the transition.
And
Well, if the legacy plan's that volatile, how do you explain how we're funded so highly in all these other states that are on these hybrid plans?
I don't think that
are sinking their ships?
I don't know. I'm hesitant to answer that because in my personal opinion, I don't think that it's volatile. I wouldn't use that word.
Well, you just did. That's
Some
why
of
I asked it.
Did I say volatile?
Are you agreeing with Charlie's statement?
Well, let's say the stock market loses 50% of its
Well, that's
value.
volatile, yeah.
Well,
What happens to the contribution rates? And we actually can answer that question with our own experience.
can.
So in 2008 came around,
Absolutely.
what happened to the percent we had
Right.
to contribute?
In speaking to this, if you look at what the state did, is they put some other measures in place that could change what they contribute. And it's in this 3.1 employer cost of liability controls. They've got some
On the hybrid.
some things. If this 2008 happens, we're going to do this first, then
Other
this,
things
then
they can
this,
do. Well,
then
over the
this.
last 10 years, how has our rate changed? Right now, you say it's 11.92.
I'd
What-
say
what's
it's
its
been
range been the last 10 years?
It changes every 2 years. Wish I'd brought that.
Well,
But
okay,
that's
we're on
on-
11.97, before we were on 11.64 for like 4 years. Before that, we were on like a 12 point something. We've gone down a couple of times. I know
Let's
we,
see,
it's 11.97, 11.64, 11.64.
I just remember going to the meeting, getting the thing, and being in the panic of, oh my gosh, our rates are gonna go up, you know, and then I get our rate and it went down. It's like, okay.
and you know, we have measures built in within our, we want to, as best as we can. Historically, we've always wanted to keep our contribution rates preferably within a 1% range of each other from each valuation. So, you know, we had measures built in before we went to the hybrid plan, before these cost controls were ever developed, where, you know, if we had to work with employers, if we had to re-amortize, if we had to go from a 10-year amortization period to a 20-year period to keep a rate more level, we could do that. We could work with the employers as long as they were prepared for the fact that we were putting them on a lengthier table. So we did have some type of flexibility, if you will, before, but we always wanted to keep our contribution rates as close to within 1% as possible from what you previously experienced. And I think that sounds like that's
That's
pretty
what I'm
much what we
saying, for
tried
the
to
last-
do with what we do
These
successfully.
last
did.
6 years, we're gonna get a new one, February, March, but I'd say the last 6 years, we are just pretty much the same.
Well, one thing that was brought up is how come we do better than other states or large municipalities. And if you look at the what were manufacturing states and cities, large cities in the north, they took money from their pension fund instead of putting it in and used it for daily reoccurrences, which makes a big difference when you're looking at the long haul. And companies have done that too. private sector.
And I think what sometimes gets missed is how is the retirement benefit calculated? If you're doing, if it's based on your high 5 years, that's one number, but what if it's based on your high 3 years, your last 3 years? Well, that's a higher benefit, you know? And what if you're only getting maybe 1.57% by year, and it works out to be what, after 30 years, about 47%? But what if the plan provided 80% of your high, I mean, those are the factors that sometimes I think get lost in the discussion of why this plan is, you know, this pension is doing bad, but this pension is doing good. And I feel like Tennessee has always been conservative in how they calculate the benefit to the employee.
Okay, on the hybrid plan, so it seems like we've been talking about it some, it's come in. And it says down here, the state recommends but does not require that participating local government employers require combined employer and employee contributions of at least 5% of salary. That's on.
Depends on which hybrid you're looking at.
That's the local government.
That's the local government
Yeah.
hybrid.
And my question.
And I think you guys were looking at
The state hybrid, which is this one. Yes, that's correct.
Go to that.
There's two different hybrid plans.
two different ones.
That's what I was saying. The state's what they recommended, but there's multiples that we could do.
Okay, well, what I'm asking is, well, they say 2% salary employee contribution with an opt-out fee. Can the employee, if they want to, put in more than 2% into the defined contribution? If not, why not?
Well, they have a separate 401K and a separate 457B that they can
That's where they
participate
could
in,
go
and they
with.
can do, yeah. That's absolutely available. That's available now.
I didn't know what all conversations you had with
Yeah, we
Casey,
did.
so.
So we have both those available to us already, where they can do supplement if they want to, if they say, well, I think I really need to do a little bit extra, I haven't, maybe they weren't planning earlier and they wanna do more now so that's available now. And we have quite a few employees.
Well, then with defined contributions, it sounded like that the state picked some company that they go through for the defined contribution.
Great West.
And the county, looking at it that way, can pick their own if they so desire. In other words, could go with the same one the school board has for 403Bs.
Well, we have nationwide, currently. We could go with nationwide, we could go with Great West. I mean, you know, if we went for somebody that we're not already using, I think we would have to probably bid that process since it would be available, but we could go with somebody that's existing already that either the Board of Education uses or.
Say nationwide, how many different funds do they have? Do they cover the whole spectrum?
Oh, yeah, they have a lot, yeah.
I'm talking balance.
They have fixed, they have long-term, short-term, high risk, low risk, all the,
It brought to my attention that representative from the school board has some information that might be pertinent to this, and if there's no objection, we're gonna let Mr. Sandy speak for a minute. I don't really wanna turn this into a public hearing, cause there's a whole room full of people that would love to weigh in. And I don't really wanna discourage that, but we really don't need to go there, but Mr. Sandy, you know, assistant principal, assistant director of finance.
We are in the second year of the hybrid plan for new teachers. So today I looked at around 10% of our teachers are in that plan halfway through the second year. If we move to another plan, either the 2.5% contributory or the hybrid for the Board of Ed classified staff, kind of trying to do an estimate if we have that same rate of turnover, 2 years out, an $80,000 to $90,000 savings. For what that's
going with the hybrid, going with the hybrid?
Yes, assuming we have the same rate of turnover in
You're
that.
talking about how many employees?
He's talking 5,000 to our
5,000.
900.
No, just the classified.
Oh, that's right, cause the
Yeah,
others,
because-
the teacher's
yes.
already on it, that's right.
4,000,
Oh,
3,500?
no, the teacher number is close to 3,400.
So 1,500.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
1,500.
And some of those are part-time, who
Oh,
are
right.
not covered.
So that's not that far from county general.
Right,
Okay.
Yeah,
cause I think you wrap all of us up for 1,000.
yeah. It would be a slow process.
Well, now, see, I'm a little confused by that because your classified are already 5% contributory.
No, they're
No.
not.
Oh, they're not, they're on our plan,
They're on our
okay,
plan,
they're
yes.
on our plan, okay, that's right. Okay. So I was like, how are you gonna do the savings?
Perfectly clear? No question?
Well, one thing that, just looking at this, if I was a person that was gonna hire into a system and I was looking at these two plans, if I was planning on moving and not staying with the system, I definitely want the hybrid plan.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, I think that's a no-brainer. And that's something that concerns me, because one thing that we do want,
Thank you.
and I think part of the good thing about the legacy plan we have is it's a benefit, because I've had people tell me the reason they came to work for this county was because of the benefits. And they compared them to the other counties. And basically what we're doing is we're going to equalize ourselves with everybody else in the state. And I think we're gonna lose out on the potential hiring of people that we would want to hire in the future. So I mean, that's one plus for the legacy, and not saying, you know, that's what I'm advocating at all, but I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer. I was planning on leaving, it's definitely a hybrid plan for me if I had the choice.
One of the things with the legacy does, well, any of them that have a vesting schedule, any vesting, and you have all different ones. You have an immediate vesting, cliff vesting, 5-year, 10-year, whatever. It does, if you're looking to say, I'm wanting to reward those individuals who stay with us for amount of time, this is their reward. That's kind of how I look at it. And if we're just wanting the best option for like a new employee who wants to come in and stay for a couple of years, cut their teeth on the county, and then go into something else. Because I mean, there's a lot of people that do that. They come into us for various and sundry reasons to get their career started, but then they go out into other avenues. Then the hybrid is because they're going to end up getting to leave with, if they contribute 2%, the county's 5%, and then the other, they're going to get to walk out, and it might be enough to, buy a house, a car, whatever. So,
Right, well, the reason I brought that up, a lot of these guys hadn't been here quite as long as I have.
right.
And I remember when our turnover rates with the sheriff's department and the ambulance service was appalling. And we were basically training grounds for Murfreesboro City, for Williamson County, you name it. And our people were coming here, we were paying that $8,000 or $10,000 to get our officers trained. As soon as they had a little bit of time under their belt, boom, they were gone, Murfreesboro City or whatever. And, we're gonna throw ourselves, I think, back into that situation if we're not careful. And so my main reason for saying is I wanna be very careful and take our time and look at this frontwards and backwards, because there's more than just, this bottom line dollar figure that we're looking at for, in my book, there is.
If we were, if they selected something and they say, based on the information we have available, and we were wanting to make our best decision that we could an actuarial do anything with, could they provide anything if they picked a hybrid plan and said, okay, these are the options we wanted the hybrid, we're pretty certain we want the, is there any thing that they could give them based on our current population if we were just trying to say apples to apples, to give them a basis of like making that decision?
There may be the possibility of running an independent study. We have employers that do that for other benefits that we offer, mainly the public safety benefit. We actually have 2 groups that we're working with right now that have reached out to our actuary, Brian Pendleton, Swats McAllister out of Brentwood, and they are supplying them with an independent actuarial study. What they do is, they kind of look at our history, because they're our actuary, they are obviously privy to our investment returns and our mortality experience and turnover experience and things like that, so they can apply those to an independent study, and then they could supply that to you. It would be more of a relationship between you and them.
It's a contract between Rutherford County and them to prepare an actuary.
What does that
study
cost?
for us.
Ballpark?
You're looking at between $5,000 and $7,000 probably.
Yeah.
Not as bad as I thought.
Well, and
I thought it'd been greater.
that's what it is for the public safety.
That's what it is for the public safety,
So
it varied.
How
That's
long would
starting
something like that
cost.
take?
The one for Hamilton County, I think that they started, I think it took approximately 4 months maybe, 4 to 5 months.
For just the public safety piece.
Just the public safety piece.
So would this be more
I would,
time consuming? I would guess it would be.
my personal opinion, I think it probably would, because we are talking about your entire employee population moving into this.
Not just one group.
Not just the public safety group, so I think that it might be a little bit more challenging, which would just, not that they couldn't do it, it would just take them some more time.
Just talking county general, though, right?
Well, we do the
We
Board of Ed
schools
classified too.
Highway.
Highway,
And we would be including
ambulance service.
public safety
Right.
and that as well too.
I think, what came out of steering, to do it by April 1, I think
Not doable.
that's a no way, unless all you're gonna do is change,
From 5 to 10-year vestings is what they said.
That's correct. If you're talking about transferring a plan, even if you were to vote on it tonight, the earliest we could do it would be October. So we have to have 6 months' notice, and then it's the next quarter. So we're already into January, so we wouldn't even be able to meet July. We'd have
If
to
we
wait
made
until
a
October
wholesale change
1st.
to the.
If you made a change to a
If we
completely
changed to
different
say the
plan.
2.5% contribution and legacy
We
plan.
can start that effective
that'd
next
be-
month.
That'd be very doable.
Right now.
If you're within the legacy plan,
Mhm.
you could make any change that we wanted to, but if we go to the hybrid plan,
Correct.
that's what takes us away.
Mhm.
Well, just speaking for myself, I've got 9 pages of information here. I've had several phone calls in the last 36 hours. I've learned more than I ever knew about the retirement system in the last 36 hours. And I've been back and forth 3 times today. The portability part of it looks great to employees, bad for the county. I thought that was opposite before I got here tonight. I didn't realize they could take that money. And I think a lot of these employees that have called me might, the more they investigate this, might change their mind. And somebody mentioned the railroad, because this all, to some extent, started Monday night after third option up for debate at steering came to us, and now we could possibly vote on this and have this done by next Thursday night, 10 days. Personally, I'm not comfortable moving this that fast, nor making wholesale changes. We're learning by the moment right here tonight and stuff, and I don't mean to cut anybody off, but, and I'm not gonna make a motion or can't make a motion as chairperson, but I would encourage somebody to consider deferring this till next month, and let's see how much more information we can get and make an educated decision when we do make that decision. If this had been something that came through the process and was a 7-0 vote out of steering, which was what staff had recommended, it had all been going straight forward, but we've been all over the board in the last 2 days. And so like I said, if anybody wants to continue conversation, I think we can be here all night long talking about different things, but personally, I'm not gonna vote for any of the changes myself tonight, because I don't think any of us are in a position to make an educated decision.
What information would you want?
I'd like to
When you
see I'd like to see a bid from this agency in Williamson County she was talking about, or at least find out what it would cost us.
Independent study.
I'll get you that information, Sonia. I'll talk to Jill
If
tomorrow.
we can get
Larry, you feel
a
free to
cost on that.
weigh in on this.
No, I'm listening. I think you're on point. I think it'll take us a bit of time to tell the actuary what we want done. I mean, so
You gotta tell them what you want before they can do
before
the
they can
study.
give us a price, and we don't really know what we wanna tell them yet.
This isn't something we touch on any type of regular basis. We don't reach out every year and adjust this retirement system. So in my opinion, we just gotta make sure we do the right thing when we do. So when's the last time we did something? 15 years?
It's been 1990 something, I think.
15 to 20 years. Yeah, so I just wanna make sure we do the right thing when we do.
I think the majority of the phone calls that I received today, and it was well over a dozen of them, multiple of them were primarily around the fact of, was 2 things. Number 1 was, the current plan versus the new proposed plan. In reality, it looks like a reduction in pay, so we could have people in departments right next to each other that are, in essence, feeling like they're getting less than the guy next to them. Now, I think there are some people that are gonna, be service merited because they've been here for a certain amount of time, but when you're taking the money out of the check versus them getting it on the amounts that they're already getting, it impacts them. So I think being able to explain that to them and educate them on the benefits of both, the pluses and the minus. I'm like you, I've gone back and forth. I like the portability. I thought I understood it. Now I have to think about this some more. But that was one of the major concerns that I got probably out of the 6 or 7 phone calls. You know, well, I gotta work right next to the guy his paycheck was several $100s less than mine this time than the other, so.
Cause you're thinking about the 5% on the DB and the potential 2% if
Yeah.
they don't opt out. I
Yeah,
mean,
they're
they have
7%
the-
out of their.
Yeah,
out of their
7% out of their
take-home.
take-home pay. And I think when I calculated it just on the 5%, you know, when we kicked around the hybrid just doing the 5%, for a person making 30,000, that's $1,500 a year. And I know it doesn't sound like much, but you know, a little over $100 a month out of somebody's check that's making 30,000, it's pretty significant.
But on the flip side of it too, having some time to be able to digest this and discuss it, because the average length of a tenured employee here is in the county right now, 8
9
years?
years.
9 years? And so, you know, the reality of the situation is the marketplace is changing. I think a large majority of us are not in favor of larger and larger and bigger government. People are changing professions and are moving, so having control of some of that money. And in relation to what Commissioner Baum was saying, I think too, maybe getting a grasp of, can the private money maybe exceed the pension money if it's invested correctly? But then I have the other side of concerns, which is when you give people access to their money and we fall in hard times, we don't want them to wake up at 55 and 60 and have nothing in there. You know, and the pension does protect some of them against that. So there's just a lot. We need to digest it. So I second your motion.
Mr. Jernigan made it, now, my limited knowledge of Robert's Rules of Order, I think we have to defer to a specific time. So you defer to next month's meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. A motion by Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Kaplan to defer this until next month's meeting. Budget.
Do you think it'll give you an opportunity, adequate time to get this information?
Find out what we can get from the
I
actuaries
think we
and
can
how
at
much.
least get the good initial information as far as cost of what they'll need from you all. I think we can at least be able to do that and then come back to you and give you how much the study in itself would cost to make certain you do certainly want to pursue it, and then we could go from there. A month, we should be able to do
And
that.
could you have them break it out by the 2 different things? Because one, we're talking about 2 different pieces. We're talking about a public safety piece, which we discussed last night, and we're also talking about the pension. So can you ask them?
I think we could. I had asked you to be prepared that that's gonna probably be a significant cost, because it sounds like kinda sounds like 2 studies.
So you
When
combine them?
We probably would not combine them. I would say that we would wanna do the hybrid, and then we would want to do, because let me make sure I understand. Are you considering the public safety if a change is made, or are you considering the public safety benefit regardless?
It was just,
It's an if.
it's an if.
I think
Okay.
Sonia and Lisa and TCRS people should have a meeting, sit-down
Yeah.
meeting and really go. This may take an hour of discussion of them to really determine what we wanna ask for.
This can be brought back to next month's budget committee and may be something
might
where we
be
can.
Fleshed
we can
out and say,
flesh
these
out, or
are the
may-
things,
Or
to me,
could
it's a
be saying,
menu.
we're still drawing together, but we'll have to discuss it at that time. That's all we can do. And I'd wanna make sure that the county employees here, we appreciate everybody being here. Doesn't like we're trying to divide and conquer, trying to get you out of the room so we can vote on this. I think we all take this very seriously. This affects everybody's life, their retirement, what everybody's working for and stuff. And so I don't think there's a person up there that takes this lightly and wants to make wholesale change without doing complete in-depth. Mr. Schaefer has had
I
that
got
part.
2 questions, and one thing, I've been involved in both retirement in the public sector and the private sector, so I've seen all kinds of things. But anyhow, mine is, and I think human resources can come up with it, I would like to see, say in the last 10 years, the amount of people that have been under 30 or under 35 that have left county employment. In the county general, which was what we're really talking, not the Board of Education, as opposed to those that left after 30 or 35. What I'm getting at is more what Commissioner Kaplan mentioned. I think you see of the younger people, I know my kids, I can't count the amount of jobs that they've had since they've been here. well, one of them, since they finished college, you can't count because it took him forever to do it. But anyhow, I mean, they've changed and they're going to better jobs is what they're going. They're going for more money is the number one thing. And then they get the money and there's things that they can, you know, put in. Their companies have things, but a lot of the companies don't have good defined contribution plans. Some of them do, some don't. I mean, HCA, my daughter hates that one right now, but of course their pay makes up for it. So that type thing, which is not going to happen here. That's why I'd like to see the ages. And if it's the young ones that are leaving, I'm sure it is the young ones, because once people get, you know, vested and have time in, they're going to, you know, they've got the vacation and sick leave and this type stuff, and it's harder to leave them.
Well, that's why I was talking about them cutting their teeth on us and
Yeah.
moving on to somewhere
And
else.
the other thing I'd like to go just quickly on this safety plan. And the way I understand it, if we took that, what is it, 25 and 5 and 5 or whatever, that you would have to take everybody that's retired, everybody that's working, and those coming in would have to go on that plan. So you're talking people retired all of a sudden get 5 more years?
It also includes your inactive.
You-
Anybody that's worked for
So
you
you're
years
talking-
ago that doesn't work for you now.
Yeah.
1 year even.
Yeah,
They'd be
you're-
eligible for they'd be eligible for the bridge benefit.
You're talking a huge initial cost
Even if
for
they
the
weren't
company.
vested?
If they became vested elsewhere,
Oh, I see.
so if they only worked for you for 1 year
And
and
went
then they went
somewhere else for
somewhere else for
10
the
years.
remaining 29, we'd still come to you and say they get a bridge benefit for based on that 1 year.
For that 30 years.
Well, or
Would-
25 or whatever. I mean,
Right, yeah, whenever they,
25,
so
50,
they could have,
Whatever.
I'm just asking, I could have worked for the sheriff's department
That's
for
huge.
1 year
Here.
and here, and
Donna
then
Wilson.
went to the state comptroller's office as an accountant. And then you give Rutherford County that bridge, and I'm an accountant, I can come back under. Can I
well,
do
you
that?
you would retire and you'd theoretically have 2 benefits. You have a really, really small one for Rutherford County for 1 year, and then the rest of it would be with.
But I could get a bridge, could I get?
If they retire before 62, because that's when the bridge stops,
Yeah.
when they can get their Social Security. If they retired at age 60, then for 2 years they would get. I mean, it would be a small. I mean,
Okay.
based on
It's
their
not based on the
employment.
whole years with con-
It would be
it's
based
still
on the
just
years,
a-
the years they
one-
served.
Just
with
that 1
Rutherford
year,
County.
okay.
But I thought I heard you say if they worked for us 1 year in law enforcement and they went to the state highway patrol and worked for 29 years, that because of that bridge, we'd have to pay the full 30.
No.
Just
You're
that one.
only
Okay.
responsible.
Okay.
Rutherford County would only be responsible for the benefit that was accrued to them as a Rutherford County police officer. So if they only worked with you all for 1 year, but then they worked as a public safety officer for the state would be in charge of the big 29 years. But you'd still have to fund that small 1 year.
So it's not a mandatory 55 since you say 62?
The mandatory age is
I
60.
think these are all
The ma-
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
We can talk about this.
Mr. Allen had her hand up a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I just have 2 simple questions. The first one is, can you explain or just clarify on the portability piece of the hybrid? They can take the county portion before they're vested
Okay.
or only after
So
they're
the
vested?
hybrid is 2-part. The hybrid has a defined benefit, that's us, that's TCRS. And then they have a defined contribution, that's Great West or whomever else you might, whatever other company you might go with. On the DB side, because they have to contribute, the TCRS side, because they have to contribute, if they leave and they wanna take their money out, they can take their money, not the employer's. On the DC side, the Great West, the 401k side, they can take all of it,
Just like the private sector.
just like the private sector.
Okay. And then the other question I had was, Lisa worked up the scenario for us on the county side of the savings. You sort of alluded to it a minute ago of a sample of $30,000 salary. It would be interesting to me to see on a $30,000 paycheck what each one of these impacts would be.
It's about $100. You mean what they would draw monthly?
Right, I mean, how, the difference it would be between
about
all the
100.
different levels. So is it gonna be $100 regardless of which one we pick, or,
No,
cause there's
there's-
a lot of different options in front of us.
I think okay, I'll look at that and give it to you. So I think I've already got that calculated, I've got it calculated, you want me to tell you now, or you want me next time?
Well, I wanna know by each one that we're looking at, I wanna look at the county's numbers, and I wanna be able to look at the employer's numbers side by side.
As far as the cost to each of us?
No, what they will draw.
What,
What
no,
the-
no, the cost to the employee,
What's coming out of their
what's coming
paycheck?
out of his paycheck,
Okay, oh, okay.
and what are we saving?
Okay.
You're using 30,000.
Right, whatever the average salary is.
Okay, alright, so you don't wanna know what the employee's gonna draw for as a benefit, but what it's gonna cost, okay.
I wanna know what the real life today difference, the scenario that, Mr. Kaplan gave, to say you've got two employees doing the exact same job, similar tenure, one guy was hired before this plan, the next guy was hired 30 days later. What's that difference gonna be?
I see, okay, alright, I can do that.
I mean, and let's be real about the situation, but one of those questions came from law enforcement and from emergency. You know, and you got two individuals that are doing the same exact job, and there's a burning building. I mean, I'm not saying people make the decision what they're being paid on, but you can't have two guys next to each other doing the same exact job, and he's over here knowing he's getting $400 less per month. I mean, we gotta figure out, how do we propose that, show that to county employees without damaging what they're doing for us and for our county. I think that's what we're trying to get at here.
We've got a few instances like that with insurance now,
Yeah.
dealing with new hires.
And it's just not
Some
good.
is just the necessary evil with making plan changes. It has to be a line drawn somewhere in the sand. We have a motion to defer this until next month, and I won't be at next month's meeting, so Commissioner Vaughn will take care of it.
That's just real motivation.
Just realize that. We have a motion to defer. Yeah, I just realized that.
Will it be okay, I mean, I don't wanna speak for these ladies, but, I mean, are you gonna need them to come back, or do you think just us getting together and bringing this information back enough? I mean, I hate to ask them to keep coming back
I
and
think
forward.
we'll want them back. I've got a few questions I can ask tonight, but I think I'm gonna wait till next month just because I think everybody's kinda ready to move on, but I've got questions I'd ask them right now.
If you guys would send me your questions.
think that's important right
If you
there.
would send me your questions now, I will send them, I will recap them all and send them, and then, you know how I've sent you emails this week. If you'll send me all those questions, then I will recap them and send them, and they will answer them, I can send those out, and then you'll kinda know, and that way, if you need a follow-up question, that will kinda speed up the process for you too. So,
We
I'll be happy to
appreciate
do
you ladies
that.
being with us tonight.
Yes,
And hope you can come be with the rest of the committee next week.
Enjoy your
You live
food.
in Maine.
We do have a motion to defer this until next month. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where we are, item number 13. Litigation tax. Increase litigation tax from $10.35 to $14 for general session judge's salary. Ms. Nolan,
Okay, we do a analysis.
we might want to wait just a second. We're still on the air, so if you could try and move your conversations outside, we would appreciate it.
Okay, we analyze it, try to do it every year, determining how much revenue that we get from the litigation tax that supports the salaries for the general sessions judges. It's been a while, since we've made any change. We are currently at $10.35 based on what we received last year. We could go to $14.11. So the recommendation is to change the litigation tax to $14. I think, information coming from the circuit court, they like not weird pennies.
What generates that number, the $14.11? Do we do that internally, or
I
does
did
that
it,
come from the state?
you've got it right here, no, I do it.
You do the math on it
Mhm,
yourself?
And that's in the back.
What, at the commission meeting last month, what was the recommendation that we approved to go to our legislators in the General Assembly to go from $25 to $50?
That's a completely different tax.
That was,
What, total litigation?
it also
called
is a
litigation.
litigation
Oh, okay.
tax.
But it
too.
goes to something different?
Yes, there's a
Okay.
lot of litigation taxes, each one is specific for use.
That one goes to brick and mortar, does it not?
That one
Capital
that he's
improvements?
talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that one does. There's several, many.
Is this
Those that-
litigation tax
In
capped?
general sessions court.
The possible
We're
use.
limited. She has to go through this computation process back here. We could go up to $14.11 according to the rules of how you determine what this tax
But
is.
not beyond that.
And not beyond
Not
that.
beyond that.
And she just suggested we stay at an even number.
So we're going up at roughly $3.50. Why didn't we go up $2 a couple of years ago, for example? Is it not worth it? Or, I mean, we're growing like crazy, aren't we? So that means that our court
But
cases are growing like crazy.
There's some variable numbers in this right here.
We just, with what all was going on, it just was not a good time to even,
Who is required to pay this tax?
the people who file.
People who go to court. Only the people that file. So not, say, if somebody brought a suit against me, I wouldn't have to pay it. Only the person that was
Where's
bringing
the
this suit
judge?
would pay.
Well, it's just about everybody that goes through
Judge
general
says
sessions
it
court.
costs really.
All those people that have been arrested and booked for one reason or the other.
If somebody is brought into court, would it not be whoever's awarded court costs? If you were prevalent in your case,
Here,
you would not pay
Get
that.
Melissa.
Here's our court clerk.
She can,
Harold, feel free to come back up if you don't mind.
You could always counter sue for $14.11.
I'm gonna get your bookkeeper too.
So,
She gets
do we have
paid.
any idea how much then somebody pays if they go to court?
This
General
is-
sessions?
This is just a piece
This
of.
is just-
I know it's a piece of it, but it seems like we got many, right?
Bookkeeper's left, so I'll be able to help just a little. But it comes out of the general sessions fund, just like the litigation taxes and things like
But
that.
if somebody's in court, is
Who pays it?
sued or something like that, who pays this? Whoever the judge puts the court cost on, and usually he defines it to,
Yes.
he may split it or he may put it on whoever basically loses.
Right.
Is that not correct?
But those people that come through court that have been arrested for all these various charges, assault, battery,
They would
DUI,
pay this
drug,
also.
they're paid this.
Mhm.
And if they're found, you know,
If they're found not guilty, do they still
They'll be
pay it?
assessed.
there'll be assessments.
Great
Of
distinction.
course, there are hardship, the judge
The
can
judge
dismiss
will
that
decide if
for
they're
hardship and
indigent.
things like
If
that,
they're
which a
found
great
not
number do.
guilty, do they have to pay this?
I don't know.
Depends on the judge, what the judge rules. Like, let me think of an example to give you.
So if Doug says, Robert stole my tire out of the back of my truck. I said, well, no, I didn't, and I ended up getting arrested for it. I'm gonna have to pay this. And come to find out it was my evil twin that actually stole his tire and not me. I'm still out to $14, right? Okay.
Unless the judge throws it out. I mean,
He throws it out and
he
say,
could
dismiss
say
it
he
and waive the fees.
dismiss,
Yeah.
waives the fee, yeah.
Correct.
I got a feeling you got a lot bigger problem than $3.65.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so. I'm just trying to find out who has to pay these. You know, it's,
Personally,
Just
I'd rather
about
see the
everybody
users,
except the judge declares indigent.
personally, I'd rather see the people who use the system pay
Right.
more than Joe taxpayer.
Which are
And-
46,987 times last year.
Yeah.
That's right.
and I
This
agree.
is gonna generate a third of a penny or a fourth of a penny.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Kaplan. Thank you, my Commissioner Schaefer. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Yes. Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Thank you again, Ms. Harrell.
You're welcome.
Don't get too far, we may need you again. General fund budget amendment for the county mayor.
There have been increase in our costs for legal services. So we are requesting $25,000 to increase that to get us through hopefully to the last half of the year.
Motion approved.
Second.
Commissioner Schaefer made the motion, seconded by Commissioner P. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Yes. Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Final resolution authorizing 68.9 million general obligation bonds.
We did the initial last month, and this is the final. This is the final document. Lots and lots of pages.
Nothing changed.
No, nothing's changed. Same amount, not to exceed 68.9 million.
And our notifications currently running in the paper?
It's in the paper,
Yes.
so the 20 days are running. Of course, you know, we're not going to rush to the market for this. What's coming next is an interfund note to provide capital until we go.
All part of the process.
In this bond issuance or in any others that we have had, do we stipulate whether we pay a penalty if we pay the bond off early?
What happens generally to get your rate, usually we borrow over 20 years, and to get the best rate, we make the first 10 years not callable.
That's what we almost always do.
That's practically what we've done every single time. Then, you know, if the market conditions are right, you can do an advance refunding, which is, you know, you just borrow the money to sit in escrow and hope it gains, well, you know, that is going to gain enough interest to pay off the bonds when they do come due. And of course, we've done some advance refundings when the market conditions, those are the ones that we say the stars and the sun, the moon has to all come together, because you're dealing with that escrow.
We did that last year.
Mhm.
It was 1 year, I think.
We had one, well, we had that split up. One, it was an advance refunding, and one, we went ahead and did a refunding. It saved $145,000 just to refund the next year's bond payments. It was set at 5%, we got it quite a bit less than that. But that's typically how we do it. So as you're kind of getting it closer to those, you know, those longer rates, once you get there, the market conditions are better to just refund it. And when we refund, and we do not extend the life of the note, or the life of the bonds. I mean, from time since I've done it and then looked backwards on all the refundings that had happened prior to me being in this position, never have we extended. Some governments, you know, it gets kind of hard to make those payments, so they restructure the note.
Restart the clock.
They restart the clock, and Rutherford County has not done that.
What page on here actually tells what these bonds can be used for?
It's that first page, and it's that,
Big paragraph.
First big
it's that
paragraph.
same paragraph that we published in the paper that we would use it for, that we could use it for. Of course, we'll need every bit of it for the judicial building until we get to the end. As the mayor had said last time, there is some contingency built in.
Speaking of the length of bonds, I remember 10 years ago now, I guess, we were looking at a tax increase, and our bond advisors came and told us one way to avoid tax increases was to lengthen our bond issuance time from 20 to 25 years. We voted not to do that and just bit the bullet and put through a minor tax increase, because that was going to cost us millions upon millions of dollars over the length of time of the 25-year bonds. But that's the way a lot of counties do it. They just start stretching it out, you know, and then you just dig a hole for yourself.
If y'all would slide over to page 20 or 27. This is an estimated amortization. And
20?
20 years. Yeah, oh yeah, 20 years, and on page 20 and 27. This assumes that we would go, this assumes with this that if we went and borrowed it off, that it would be done next fiscal year. We don't really need money until March, that's why we're doing that other one. Then if we extend it into next year, where we actually are borrowing in the 16-17 fiscal year, making the first payment interest payment being April 17. First interest payment of 2018. That's kind of how this is structured right now. If there is any change to the structure, we'll be coming back and informing you.
Of course, this is just the mechanics of what we've already voted on at least 3 times, I think. twice last month alone.
You need another vote tonight?
Oh, yeah, that was the initial, this is the final.
Motion to approve the
Thank you, Commissioner Petty.
issuance.
Second.
Commissioner Baum. Any further discussion?
One other thing, since you brought that up about how many years we finance, and, you know, like I said, I haven't been here a little while. One other thing that we did a long time ago, when our development tax, first came on board, we looked at that and we thought, well, you know, it's kinda like an old friend of mine used to say, you know, taxes is, to politicians, kinda like feeding hogs. The more food you got, you throw out there, that hog's gonna eat it. The more money you put in front of a politician, he's gonna spend it. So we decided that of that development tax, instead of having that free to spend, that we'd use it to pay off debt. So 50% of that goes to debt and continues to do that as long as we keep that policy in place. And I like that policy because, you know, I'm all for my grandchildren not having to pay for what I decide I'm gonna spend here. And anything that we've got out there, you know, people talking about their grandkids are gonna be paying for this. Yeah, they're gonna be paying for some of it, but right now, from this date, or from our last issuance, 20 years from now, this county's debt free. So, I mean, it's paid off and we pay our bills as we go. And I like that about what we're doing. We don't see ourselves dug into a hole like a lot of these counties and states are doing. You're not gonna see a Detroit that happened here.
The county's very conservative, and the state's conservative.
Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes.
Commissioner Petty?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Resolution authorizing 15 million interfund capital outlay notes. Ms. Noel.
And this is what I spoke to earlier, we're basically gonna be borrowing money from our debt service fund, moving into our capital, projects fund, and we'll run on that until we, borrow it, we'll replace it, and pay ourselves back.
With interest.
No. I don't charge ourselves interest. You could, but I figure you wanted to.
A motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer. Second, Commissioner Kaplan, I believe. Call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan? Yes. Commissioner Kaplan?
Yes.
Commissioner Petty?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
And there is language in the final resolution that allows us to reimburse ourselves. That's already in there too.
Okay, under other business, I know Commissioner Schaefer had a request to have the IDB report next month, if I'm not taking your word for it.
It's been a while since they reported on our status with the companies that are around.
Mr. Mayor, will you facilitate that?
I will.
Try that for set that up for next month.
One more thing. Hey, it's ham breakfast weekend on Gamble Lane in Laverne, so 6 to 10 o'clock. Come by. Well, it's getting close. Some people are going to have to run here soon, so come on by and say hi and eat some salty ham, country ham.
Commissioner Petty?
And it's also country ham time close to it, Kittrell, which ours is on the 16th. I'm gonna kinda, this is gonna be running wild, so I have to advertise a little bit, but from 6 to 10 on the 16th, Kittrell will be having a ham breakfast. Please come out.
Anything else to come for us? Appreciate everybody in-depth look at all this. I have this much homework every time. I feel like I'm back in school. With that, nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you.